I'd like to call the meeting to order. This is an ARP meeting, August 12th, and tonight's meeting we're here to discuss ideas about the remaining approximately $105,000 and what we're going to do with it. First thing I'd like is the approval of agenda with one modification. The contract to the eye doctor was sent out, and I want to have a brief discussion on that before we get into anything else. With that said, any other additions or modifications? Hearing none, I entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
I'll second. A motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
I sent out the contract on that, and I think there's two areas. One, I wanted to make sure everybody was comfortable with the description. Use some of their language as far as the free use of the device to the community and also the health fair. And they applied as Burris LeClaire. And after I put that together, I thought we probably need to reach out to them because they may have changed their corporate entity, and to affirm the same two, which I suspect they are, will be the one signing the document, contract with the county.
It's called Envision out there, but we can confirm with them,
We
but
need
that's
to
still the
reach out to
same.
them to make sure that that's what we need to do, so we're good. Because if they've dissolved the other organization, then the contract would not be valid. So, any other comments on that? Is everybody good with that? Okay, so that's it. Discussions on the remaining funds, and we have approximately $105,000 that has not been committed. What we've done in every other process, we identified a targeted area to fund. In the early ones, we set aside money in each category. The latter ones, we just kind of left it open. So two different ways we approached it. One was we limited how much we'd actually provide each entity, thinking we would distribute more funds out into the community. That was the one that was based upon losses from the pandemic. Then the others, we haven't put stipulations like that on. So,
But we've always identified a category and let people apply.
right. Targeted area that we want to open up to allow people to come in and do. Two things that I had mentioned, we have the airport that has projects. They get 97.5% or 98%, something in that range, paid by the FAA on these projects. Something to consider if we had an interest in that. One of them is resurfacing the landing strip, and the other one is building a actual taxiway so that they don't end up taxiing down the runway to come to the hangars. The other item we have, and it's just recently occurred, the county is in the process of taking over the solid waste. We may have a need for a baler and or trash compaction equipment in order to streamline the process, cut some costs, and make us more efficient. That's another potential lead, but we haven't got that actually identified. There are some grant opportunities that are coming up in September that also might be available for use or something like that.
So you know, those would be matching grants or just grants?
I can't speak on that because I haven't read it.
I saw one that was for like $500,000 up to $500,000, but I don't remember if it was mentioned.
Yeah, I don't. There's,
I remember from last year, and then I looked it up again.
there, I think deadline's in September. But I have read them to know exactly what they might cover. I think it's to bring efficiencies to the organization. Any other ideas?
Didn't you mention one time something about
Cell phone boosters and towers and
That's another
those type
potential.
of things in areas of need throughout the county that don't have good reception service?
My conversation, because I've been the temporary building permit issue where since in 2024, I've had several, they're upgrading the towers here within the county currently, several ongoing now. And I had a conversation with them about these small units. The one gentleman spoke to me about how they did Pittsburgh and they put it in numerous locations within the city because the larger buildings were blocking cell service. You could drop them in, and they were discussing in the range of $10,000 to $15,000. That's what
And
each
that's
one of
per
those.
carrier?
That's what he said, but then I think I went on and found somewhere that actually other carriers. And it may be a situation where if they're using the same technology, they can use the same. I haven't looked into that past that point. But it would be, that would be a potential. We'd have to look into it farther. I know some of the areas that just have super poor service. Get it around the different towns and pop up, something like that, that might be an option too.
I guess we would put something up to see where, how would you identify what areas aren't good, because there's a lot.
Well, I think the first thing we probably have to do is have a conversation with the carriers. I don't know what might be involved. If there was some type of funding, whether they would be willing to potentially match some of our funding. You know, if we put a portion up, it would be, we would have to initiate some kind of a discussion with them to see whether there was interest. Because it wouldn't be anything the county would operate. It would have to be operated by current carriers in our community and hopefully bring better cell service. It would be something like that.
The other thing, I don't have the list in front of me, but I'm seeing the representatives from the Conservation Club, and they're the projects that weren't funded, that didn't fall under the funding category.
For the healthcare.
Right, that didn't fit the healthcare, you know, we want to consider those with these remaining funds.
I mean, it'd be like a category of, what do we call that, like community
Needs.
or what, property? I mean, some of these organizations that, you know, have a need that are kind of a, I don't know what we describe
I
it.
think if we did that, we'd probably have to open it up for community
Yeah.
needs.
We'd have to-
Just like all of
In
these.
general.
Like you would still qualify, but we would have to allow everybody to apply for community, don't you think? Or you're just
Yeah,
talking
just
about
to be
only the
fair.
ones.
That's how we've always done it.
And
Well, I don't disagree with that, but so in that case though, should the airport then apply?
Well, I think anybody would have to
That would have to
apply.
be,
Yeah.
that would have to be
Yeah.
under a
There's-
category, and they would have to apply.
Yeah. I wouldn't
They would
just
all have to apply.
give money.
Okay.
We have never, some of the other entities have just given money out without anything. We have just always had categories, always made it open, try to keep it equal, and then allow people to come in and apply.
Getting back to the cell phones towers, I don't know. I wouldn't put too much into it. I think there's gonna be technology out there that the towers will be obsolete, that you'll be getting it from a satellite signals. And I think that technology is really pretty well there. That they just haven't given it to the public. You know,
At some time when they actually get fully self-driving cars, you probably are gonna have connectivity for that to work. So what the plan is, I'm not sure, but you can't have dead spots if it's driving your car for you. So it's,
yeah, well, I'm not gonna let anybody drive my, I'm not gonna be like that. I'm not going that route.
Given the,
I want too much control.
given the situation the county's in with funding, I'd like to see us do a category of county services or transportation and county services or something like that. so that we could capture things that are services to the county as a whole, rather than a specific community.
What type of transportations are, I mean, what do you
Well, I don't
think?
know anything from, county roads, I would think the airport would fall under that, I just know we're always talking about not having enough in county funds. You know, county services could be anything from solid waste to water to that kind of thing. But something that affects, to me, that would affect a large number of people. And I know we don't have much to give out, but
That's kind of.
that's the problem.
And depending on how we kind of think about how we want to approach this, just in round numbers, if we say we're gonna fund 10 projects, then we're gonna be looking at $10,000. Now, is that gonna do anybody's project? I don't know. So whether we want to put funding caps on, if we pick categories, or how we want to approach that. And I don't know, that's our challenge with the limited resources.
It has to be a cap of $100,000.
Well, yeah, I honestly rather take a couple bigger projects and a couple small ones if those big ones had an impact.
We say we have 105,000, but we potentially could have more if some of those bids come in less, like for the hospital's equipment or for the county equipment, I guess I should say, for EMS and, like the Rome courthouse has up to $100,000 that they can use. If they don't meet all the way up to $100,000, we'll have some money coming back, so.
That'll be a
We won't know that
later,
until
yeah.
December.
First, but
And at some point, depending on when people utilize their money, we'll have to say any money that comes back goes into county funds or something, because otherwise this will go on endlessly.
Well, after December 31st.
Yeah.
It's gonna have to revert to the county,
County funds.
because if not, we'll lose it. So
yeah, we're not
that's a
gonna wait.
deadline. That's what we have to have it committed for.
Mary, do you have any other ideas?
What do you have enough?
Yeah, I think it's a lot.
I think we're just, I just want to hear them all.
It's not very much money.
Yeah. The problem you get into is like any kind of road improvement, it's so phenomenally expensive.
I don't know if they need equipment, I don't know. And the airport would fall under transportation, county services, recycle.
Right.
Or maybe just one of those two categories. Or maybe a different category.
I personally like the cell phone boosters, but I know there's several areas throughout this entire county, not just, Hamilton or areas like that. There's areas out in the county that have
You get
very
it.
poor service.
I just remember being in some of the different, like Derby, and I think Leopold's the same way. A lot of times it's hard to get a signal. I know I find myself in
Bristow
Derby trying to
sometimes.
get down into closer to the river, try to
Or,
pick a tower from Kentucky. So, I mean, there's just different areas. I know Buzz Cruise can't get any, but that's not very important. So that area.
It's kind of dangerous. You
It's,
can't get cell service.
we don't have enough money to put enough of them into to cover the whole county, but we may be able to cover some areas. I don't know. And primarily what they are is they're covering the main thoroughfares in and out. Hamilton, unfortunately, is on the side of the hill. They are redoing a tower up there. Any other things you guys can think about that?
They're all needs.
Yeah.
That's the problem. There's a lot of community needs.
I really can't think of anything that,
Yeah.
for 105,000 there. unless you get someone that can do a matching on that
Right.
work, but,
It's kind of like the Rome courthouse, whenever they're looking to match it, yeah,
Right.
$100,000.
yeah.
That boosts the project up
Yeah.
quite a bit.
We could also wait until December to see if anything comes back to us.
Can't hardly wait that long. By December 31st, we have to have it all
Yeah,
somewhere.
I know, but
Well, I'm gonna make a motion, we open it up to transportation and county services.
read anyway and get rid of it, distribute it someplace.
What'd you say? I'm sorry.
And a motion that we open it up to transportation and county services.
Open up the what?
Open up a category for transportation and county services. Next.
For those type things to apply? Or,
Mhm.
I mean, who would
So-
apply on behalf of the county?
When it says county service, that includes, all the cities within the county city services.
No, just county services. I'm wanting to capture something that helps the county instead of one specific
In
city.
the entire county, including the city.
Yeah. So I don't know if there's something that's needed at the courthouse. I would think that, the recycle area would be county services. I would think that the highway department would be county services. I think, I don't know.
So is that just the government entity of the county? Is that what you mean by that?
I mean, that would be for the group to decide. I guess that's what I was thinking, counties, was county services, but perhaps not, I don't know. That would be up to the group, you all to decide.
Do you think there's some other ones that maybe would? I'm trying to
Well,
think what that might be.
I think that there could be, again, organizations that would say they serve the whole county. I can think of a couple examples. I don't really want to
I got you.
say them out loud, but you think about their not-for-profits that serve the entire county that could.
I don't-
So I just think like if
So
you have
want
something
me to
specific in
specify,
mind, I just think you need to say, otherwise, it could be.
So, okay, so then I will modify my motion to include transportation and government county services.
And then, just for talking points, are we gonna put any limits? Or do you wanna wait and see what ideas come in and then we'll just determine based upon the need? I mean, because I don't really know exactly.
I think we need a second before we do discussion.
Think maybe, break it up.
Sherry'd like to have a
250.
second before, she's trying to follow Robert's rules.
I'm trying to follow Robert's rules, which is what we adopted. We're supposed to have a second before we have discussion.
Repeat your.
I wanted to make a motion that we open up the category for the ARP funds to transportation and government county services.
Government county services?
Yeah.
What, meaning?
Government county services, any government county services.
County government services.
Yeah, that's a better word,
Yeah.
county government services. Okay.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Now we can have discussion.
I would like to see, would we want to do for 25,000 or, keep it or 250,000 or just keep it one lump sum and bring everything in of what, and see what we got.
Yeah, right now, I don't know exactly what projects might show up at our doorstep and what the cost might
Yeah, we don't know what the need is.
So to put a certain handcuff on us in dollar amounts without knowing what we may be funding, I think
maybe we'll just bring them all in and then
And then,
if we decide maybe only one project would take it,
yeah, if
you know.
somebody comes in with something really great,
So transportation, like the Council on Aging has a van. They have like a transportation service and they provide throughout the whole county. Is that transportation? I mean, they may ask that, so I'm just curious.
is your category of transportation kind of based upon the airport needs? I'm thinking that's what you're.
And highway department.
You,
I mean, I don't know if there's a piece of equipment they need or anything like that.
you talked about the solid waste now, the whole county pretty well is involved with that, so.
That's county services.
If they need a new baler or compactor, then that would help
County services.
county
And then,
service. I mean, that makes sense to me.
There's also, we had a demo for a new piece of software. It's an annual type thing. But it looks like an iPhone that you mount on the front of a vehicle. And what it does is that it will you drive all your county roads, and it determines the condition of that road. We have to submit that data for community crossings. And it will actually go through all of those roads. It gets all of, whether it's cracked, they rate the roads. And then it will actually come in and make recommendations. This is a road 5, you need to be doing some work on it this year. Or it's gonna turn into a 3 and it's gonna cost you big dollars.
Could that be, and it could be, I know, but put into GIS
Yeah,
system, identified through the
it
GIS.
runs that way. You also has the ability to put road signs in it. Inventory of your culverts. It's just everything. And then you can pull it up and you can actually look on that piece of software at that section of the road, exactly what it's seeing and what it's calling it out. It's Knox County and several other counties have got it. And what it does, it takes away, currently what we do is 2 people drive around and look at the roads and come up with a decision as to what the condition of the road is and they rate it. This is, it takes a picture every 12 or 13 feet of the road. So it does that and identifies, it's really kind of sophisticated, how all of that picks all of the deficiencies out, potholes and that, and you can then go back and say, I want to see where the potholes are on a specific road, and it'll pull them all out and show you where each one of them is. It's kind of neat.
How much is that?
It's a little less than 20,000. That's what it is.
The cost to have the equipment, and then is there an annual fee?
There is an annual fee. I don't have that off the top of my head.
Yeah, that would save on gas.
Yeah, and the nice thing about it is that you
2 people driving around.
It's not your.
you can actually put this device in a truck as you're going to a job site.
Yeah.
You can do the road recording as you drive. One of the other things the gentleman suggested is if the state, for instance, closes down a road, as an example, they're doing in Spencer County, they're taking them through a county road back around that to get back on the state highway. If you will actually go through and take a recording of that road before they dump all the traffic on it, then take a recording after, the state will actually consider paying to have some of that road work repaired on that due to the fact they put all the traffic on it. So it's nice in that respect too. That way you can potentially recoup some of the costs that you got damage due to diversion of traffic.
Actually, drones will be used for that, or something similar to drones, whatever technology gets out there.
But it's nice, and then you take away the subjective, this road is good, this road's not so good. And it is a requirement for us to get community crossings. So we have to do that.
Well,
What we're doing now is just by hand.
I guess this is just totally different comment that I think we all come at it with our different perspectives, and when you're an elected official, your perspective is like, what can we do for the county and county government? Because I look at, like, my perspective is more, from not-for-profits or like the community perspective. So I look at it that we've allocated already over $500,000 for county expenses of the ambulances things. So I like to see as much as possible going towards community-based type projects. I also understand that, county government, like countywide projects, those help everybody. So I do understand that, but I'm just like my perspective and like my perspective on the committee is more that kind of the community-based outlook of like how can we empower some of these organizations that don't have opportunity, that they don't have capacity to tax and have tax revenue like the county government does. And I think part of it is like what's the purpose of the ARP funds? It's like and really there's not any specific guidelines for that. The county could have said, we're gonna keep it all. I mean, basically, I get it, like you as elected officials did not even have to open this up at all. You could have just said, we're gonna, at this round of funds that you received, you wouldn't even have to open it up at all. So, but I just kind of have to speak out of like my perspective is, I would like for us to do as much as we can to kind of help the not-for-profits and the smaller organizations that don't have the capacity that the county government does. And now that's just my comment. It's more just a overall comment, not anything really specific. Not a criticism. It's just like we all come at it from our different lenses.
And I've seen, and I understand what you're saying, because I don't represent government either. Except I see a little broader view in that I've sat on this so long, and we did open it up to not-for-profits. But I know that was a while ago. And
For the lawsuits, is that what you mean?
yes, we opened it up for not-for-profits then. One of the problems I see now with opening up that way, with only $105,000 left, well, we're gonna have dozens and dozens. And how do you determine which not-for-profit is more important than the next? Now, when we were doing $1,500,000 at a time, $250,000 at a time, it wouldn't have been so difficult. I just get in the back of my mind having $100,000 and having 25 not-for-profits apply, and what do we do with that? Because I have a hard time separating which one is more,
Unless you put those limits, like I said, I think that's totally a fair comment.
Well, me being an elected official, I don't look at it. Like, I look at it what's best for the whole of the Perry County. I don't really care if I get elected,
Well, and I don't mean it like
yeah, I
that,
know,
saying, I wasn't
yeah.
saying, like, that's,
Yeah.
no, I mean, it's more the opposite of that, it's like, you just see everybody's needs, because
But
you work for the.
I try to look at what is best for the entire county. Who uses different things, the services and so forth. So,
So the biggest impact is what you mean, like the
yeah, the big,
the broadest reach.
yeah. And, but,
Can I make a comment?
but there was
Is that
a
allowed? Is it allowed to make a comment?
We were really worried, but come on up here.
Well, I came here because you can't hear on it keeps cutting out on the live stream. It kept,
They're good.
Yeah.
I just saw it, and the clicking of the clock there is very distracting on anybody listening. So I came here so I could hear.
You can hear the clicking of the clock.
Really bad.
You
I've
normally can't hear that.
never heard that before. You hear exactly that.
I mean, I can hear it.
It's a new clock though, isn't it?
I think it is.
I think it is a new clock.
But in the,
Excuse me. Oh, hey, you're fine.
I'd
Maybe
like,
new batteries.
I'd like to have your ears.
But she was listening online, she
I was
said.
listening
I
on
have
that.
selected yours.
And I know you don't want to make comments, but here is my only comment as a citizen of Tulsa. Okay, so back in 2000, probably 7, a group of parents went together and we got grants and we got money donated and funds for the Tell City baseball to help with that field and the red building that was built. I know that the Tell City Sports Complex got turned down because they did not have sketches or whatever. You have to realize that this probably impacts at least 200 kids that play on those fields. Okay, they come from Perry Central, they come from the county, they come from Tell City. I know Perry Central probably has their own yet out there. There are so many kids, it is so dangerous at these fields. There are fences that have gaps this wide, close to where the ball will come out, where people are sitting. It's dangerous. There's holes, deep holes within the ground around one of the fields, or when you're walking, you have to watch where you walk, or you're going to break an ankle. And there's more than, several. It's definitely something that needs work, and I know $100,000 would help to get whatever, at least get them going and fixing some of these things that are so dangerous for these kids to be down there. And that's just my only, but it would impact, quite an impact on the county.
So like recreation, so
Yes. I know they did submit their sketches, what's what you said, but,
well, we had asked for like quotes and all
Right,
these different
right.
types of things, so we didn't get those.
but.
That's why they were turned away from that.
Right, and I know the impact, what we
Because I
did.
agree,
I think it'll be a great thing, that's what we did for the Chelsea baseball field and how that impacted how many younger students, younger people in the county and Chelsea. And I think it would be a great asset.
and I think they did get some ready funds. 600 or 700.
Do you know, Stephen?
Was it like 600,000 or somewhere in there?
More than that.
Am I speaking for you? Do you
I-
just sit down?
No, you're doing great. I just gotta see where the rest of the money went.
I think that they got, I thought it was 700.
It might be.
I
And then
appreciate
they got additional.
Thanks for telling me about the clock.
Yeah, I couldn't hear anything.
Maybe they put new batteries or something.
Yeah, and it keeps cutting out, and we're not missing anything you're saying either. It was just timing out.
Okay.
So.
Thanks for letting us know.
That's horrible.
You can-
Yeah, that's horrible. That's like it.
I wonder what's
Extremely
different about it
distracting.
this time unless the batteries they changed or something.
I don't either because of the microphones and everything.
You can hear
Not
that.
very well.
You can hear this, but you can hear that too.
Oh, that's at almost over,
So in other words, you can hear the voices, but you hear the
Back
click,
and forth.
click.
Yes, you're almost a little bit faint, you can hear you, but you're a little bit faint, but that is extremely loud.
You hear that click. The, any other discussion?
I think they're all great. We have a lot of needs here.
Just a thought, and I know we have a motion and a table. If this was expanded, what, transportation, safety, and county services, I don't know. If that's just a little bit.
What would safety be? Like what? Because I know people will ask me, they'll say, what does that mean? And I need to be able to explain it
And I,
clearly.
it just came to me when you were talking about, some of the safety issues is, opposed to, that maybe it's not as much recreation as it is. Some of it could be,
Like
Taken
ADA
into-
compliance or?
not necessarily, but just in general, just, safety. And I'm just throwing that out there. And again, I know there's a motion on the table, so.
I think we just really have to spell it out, but. Because transportation, I feel like, I know, I'm not even sure that's specific enough, but I feel like somebody could come to us wanting a car. I mean.
Right.
How do we say yes, yes or no? I don't know. I think we need to be very specific in whatever it is. I don't know, maybe not. Maybe we just hear them all and.
Good.
What do you think?
You-
What do you think?
County government services, that's a broad area too, it'd be up to our discretion, when they say transportation or. It could mean roads, it could mean, fixing roads or. So I don't know, it's, it's hard to get, that down. It is a broad scope.
And when it's broad, I think it's difficult to pick winners and losers. If you have $1 million come in, then what do you do? I don't like that.
You get a lot of interpretations is the problem. And then we have limited time.
Exactly.
Because they all might be excellent projects, but
Right.
I don't wanna be in the business of, well, I like yours better than yours. I wanna have some kind of system to where it's, you met the criteria or you didn't, or,
We try to pick.
we
the one
limited
that
it
has
to
the most
$5,000
impact-
for each one or whatever it is.
The most impact on, on the
Oh.
county residents, so.
Well, I mean, let's go back and look at the ones I was talking about. It's like the airport, really great match for the airport. Probably most of the people in the county don't use it.
We don't use it.
So, I mean, those are really high match, not a lot of use by the general.
But the thing is, in the long-term vision, that if you have a really good airport, a lot, that could grow the Perry County and the community, because people look at that, corporate comes in with your jets, but we're not looking at that much money though to do that, so.
Yeah.
Is that part of the criteria though, that you do want to make the match part of it? Do you want to require the
Them to have
match
something.
or say that, a criteria, part of what the, projects will be judged on is how much match?
That's a good idea, I think.
So like if it's a county service, the county would have to put up so much money, or, I don't know.
Possibly, I don't know, or it could be maybe not, maybe only for I'm just throwing it out there, and I don't know whether that even has, but it's almost as if you're gonna ask people to apply, give them as much information, I think it's more fair to say up front, if that is an important consideration, that should probably be said up front. And I don't think that has to do with the motion that's on the floor, but maybe that comes later. But I do think that it's fair to let people know if you're gonna give them a test, go ahead and teach them.
Mary, I agree. When we did our first group like this, we determined our categories, and then afterwards, in determining the rubric is what gave people the knowledge as to what was important. And one of the categories on the rubric was match. Is this matching? And it got so many points for that. But, so I agree. You need to know what the rules are before you apply.
One of them was sustainability too.
Sustainability.
What we didn't want to do was actually put money into something that was like a one and done, that it didn't continue to give to the community. And that was one of the categories.
Came after.
So that, it felt like that it wasn't just for the moment, it will continue on.
Mr. Cope, would Parks and Rec be available to reapply?
Well, it all depends on what categories we get in here. That's what our discussion is right now, is we've always opened up like certain categories, and then people bring in their ideas and what their needs. And sometimes we think we're very specific, and then we end up getting quite a few applicants because, interpreting the words a lot of times comes up with different people with different meanings. So that's kind of what we're here tonight for, is to try to determine a category that we want to open up for the remaining $105,000 approximately. So,
Would it be appropriate to allow the same categories that were funded before, the healthcare and the health and wellness, to reapply if they had additional information?
I want to just go on with Robert's rules. We have a motion on the floor and a second and a discussion, and the discussion is supposed to pertain to the motion. So if we don't have any further, I'd like to call for a vote, and if we vote no, that's fine. Then we move on and discuss other categories, that we don't want to make these the categories, but, I mean, because right now, we're all throwing out all kinds of things right now. And
I'm thinking
it doesn't,
Yeah, I'm thinking this is too broad. I know I second it, but on thinking about it more, that it may be too broad to say transportation and county government services.
So when you do that, how do you want to hammer it down? How would you take transportation down to something?
We need to vote.
because once you get real specific, then you're tailoring it to a group.
What has talked about, we may come back to it again. I don't know.
We're gonna vote on this one. Well, I mean, she's right, there's a motion and a second,
Right.
so if it doesn't pass, we can, if it does, then it does, if it doesn't, then we wanna follow the rules, which I do.
All right. I'd entertain we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Signify aye. We have one aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
I'll say nay. I
Just
did
for part of
second it, but I think that's too broad.
3 and I didn't vote because I'm really puzzled. I kind of see where it's at, but I just, we need to make a decision here. And I think the category is okay if we want to pursue it, but I think refining it down to not so broad, so we don't, get a whole lot of people thinking they are eligible.
Right.
And we have $100,000, and then we can't help. But I don't know exactly how you refocus those to get, I don't know.
Because I also, if you truly feel like, is the transportation, I think somebody asked this, is that just because you want to be able to potentially help the airport, then is it?
Not on my part,
Yeah.
but when we get down to saying, oh, well, we want to fund the airport, and then we tailor it and make it so specific that only the airport can apply, then that's no different than Lisa coming up asking for something and we just give it to her. So to me, that the categories, yes, we can narrow them down, but when you narrow them down so far that only 1 or 2 people can apply, then you are giving it to a certain person.
Yeah, you've effectively.
No, I had highway department in mind too. I know they always need money. They're always needing equipment, those kinds of things. So, but
Can I ask a question?
Would it be possible to revisit the applications that you have had over the course and maybe just revisit them and the people that did give estimates, and if you could do like a partial, not just something that would help this piece?
Part of our challenge is, and it's just like the last round we did healthcare, and that kind of got interpreted into a relatively broad category. We got a whole bunch of things from one thing to the other. And so the entity that came in and said, well, I read that it was healthcare, I felt that I didn't qualify, so I didn't apply. And then somebody else had stepped in with some type of an idea that really wasn't healthcare, and now we're gonna give them a front row seat, because that would be unfair to that group that interpreted that I don't really qualify. That's always one of our challenges, is that we want to try to maintain fairness when we do target a category.
and if we are going back, we would have to go back, I would think, to the beginning, because we had 30 some, I don't remember. How many
I was
we
here
had
in the
the first
beginning.
round from the lawsuit?
We had
I was here in the
We had like
beginning.
40 some people apply and maybe 7 maybe got, so we're talking
That's when the
a
rules.
lot of
came out.
people reapplying. Yeah.
rules were very tight.
They
and-
loosened up.
And you had to be able to prove an actual loss.
Yeah, so
Made
it
people
did
feel
look
dug in their own pockets.
And they had to have certain documents.
It was hard.
And I think your group, actually, the
Yeah.
locals
Paid the bills
donated the
ourselves.
money and,
Yeah.
you know, did the right
Which
thing for the
made-
community. And then you didn't show a loss, but you hadn't got any revenue from renting the facility.
And now the building's just
Anything.
dire.
David just say, blank anybody, right? I mean, that would allow
Then
them
what
to
really
come
know
back.
the community needs, I guess. I mean, what would it hurt to have a hold this for that?
But if you do, you'll end up with more people and you'll end up
Be
with.
upset.
Because there's a lot of needs.
If you just say county government services, I mean, that could include people coming in, transportation, you know, some of these other entities. You know, because it is,
I mean, I don't know, I understand the Leopold group, and I think it plays an excellent part of their community. How many other entities are out in a similar situation like that? Are we talking about 2, or are we talking about 20, or are we talking about 200? I don't have a feel for how many those organizations are out there, and I'll guarantee all of them struggle for funding. It's just, whether it's a new water heater, a new roof, new door, new locks, new windows, it's just a constant.
I do think this situation with the Conservation Club is unique in that because of the losses, you know, that their situation, and maybe there are others that, you know, if you would open it up and say, would you have losses if you hadn't paid out of your own pocket? You know, maybe there would be other organizations. So I understand where you have to have some criteria, but I also sometimes think we have to look at situations and not just being objective is important, but sometimes we have to be somewhat subjective and look at unique situations.
Early on, Mary, we were handcuffed.
Oh,
Yeah, we didn't have a choice.
I understand. That's why
Well,
I'm
the
saying,
very first
you
time.
had to then, but we don't have to now. So like, if we can go back and look at those situations, that's, no, I totally understand. Back then, you didn't have a choice. I get that.
And
I think I would love to go back and look at some of those.
my only reservation is, once again, we only have 100,000, and we're talking about hundreds of thousands that were turned down. And how do you distinguish which one is more important? Unless we can think of a way to narrow it down.
and like Mary said, you know, the matching part, you know, that could narrow some things down, you know, somebody could come in and match it. You know, that would make the money go further, but I don't, you know, people would have to apply for those.
Well, I mean, a lot of
Months.
it
It
could
may
very
take
well.
months for that, so.
Yeah. It's like the Rome courthouse is in the process of trying to solicit funds.
Yeah.
Wherever they can get. Now, the only thing is, if we do things like, we gotta watch that, because we're gonna be at December 1st. If they fail, and we're gonna be scrambling. Unless the county just absorbs the money, we can do, and I'm not really sure I wanna do that.
How many people have this for matching funds?
They don't have much time.
Or they I mean, I don't know whether, if you went back to what Sherry's proposal was, transportation and government services, and we said, we're gonna set aside 25,000, which we intend to make 5,000 matches to other organizations with match of dollar for dollar. I know we're limited without ever knowing who might walk in the door, but I don't know whether $5,000, I know any dollar would help anybody, but I don't know whether.
Are you still using the same rubric?
We'd have to change the rubric to match whatever you know, because each category has a little different, end goal. You know, we just have to determine which factors.
I'd like to be able to take a smaller amount like that and help a lot.
What you
more
did,
broad audience,
in
but I don't know.
essence, you'd end up doing the same, 25,000 set aside for that, 80,000 set aside for the other.
Or whatever.
And then, but I don't have any idea whether our room's gonna be full.
You're back to picking and choosing again. Which we think transportation and government services is where I'm just.
Oh, I know.
If you're gonna pick and choose on those too, I mean, no matter what the category is, I mean, it's the card you've been dealt with, you have to do that. I mean, it's not a decision I'd wanna be a part of either, but no matter what you make the category, you still have to pick and choose. Right. So I feel like if you're basing your sole decision on having to pick and choose, because I feel like this transportation is basically gonna go to the airport. I mean, I'm just inferencing what I've been hearing. I mean, and I know some places like, and feel free to let me know if I'm wrong, but I think Derby Community Center or the Derby community has gotten 3 grants. And they got a walking trail, they got something else for structural. I know they got 2 for sure. And
They've got 2.
and we're just trying for one.
We're trying for
One.
a piece of one.
And then they came in,
Is that in the park? Like, who owns that?
The what?
The conservation club.
It's
Membership
membership
it's a-
driven.
It's not like a park or like.
No,
No.
like we have the local memorial park, which I'm the vice president of, and that there is kind of like a board as well. Like the church used to own the property and then they kind of deeded it over to us as a,
for us to take care of.
but
so do you have like a nonprofit that's running?
yes, we applied for the nonprofit, so it's in the process of being finalized.
So what is it actually today?
It's right now
The
it's,
association?
No, it's
I applied for a 501c.
it's not a 501c3.
No, it's not a C3. I applied for a 401c7, I think is what it was.
But that's probably what the VFW is. Cause I remember
Yeah,
initially,
they were something different.
initially at the beginning,
Somebody didn't
we
qualify,
couldn't
but
fund
they
it
were something.
because it was a C7. They had a really narrow.
Yeah, that's
That's
whatever,
gone now.
that's when we missed out then because
Right.
but now we've gotten,
Yeah.
we've done some fundraisers and raised money and had enough to apply for that.
C7 is probably what the KFC was, and we had several
Yeah, that's what it
organizations
was.
that we had to turn down
Because they were C7s
Right.
and not
We
C3s.
understood
We was
that,
at
yeah.
that meeting.
So we have to get into that as well.
We did the, that back under the federal.
I understand that, remember you want that.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily make them apply.
Yeah.
I wouldn't just-
Yeah, they would have to. talk
Everybody
about it.
would have to,
Yeah.
absolutely.
It wouldn't just be a given that if you were in that round, you're coming back.
Absolutely.
You would have to actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
You said if you did that 25,000,
I
you did
still
5,000
need-
matching, I think that could help some of the smaller little, I mean, it would help us, we would be that much closer to our ADA bathrooms and everybody could use it and.
I personally am okay with all of it, but that's just me. Because I feel like there was a meeting and I wasn't on this board, but I remember being at a meeting. Yeah, you've been here the whole time.
I've been here since.
Okay, the only one.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was when Liz was still here, they took a certain amount and gave it to the
County services, kind of like, they got software, they got all these other things, and they really said that they were gonna try to stay away from taking it for county needs or whatever.
They were fighting it.
They
Because
were
the
fighting
whole,
it, yeah,
the whole
because they wanted
idea
it to
was,
go out.
the county could do it, but
And I
as it's turned around, I
We
mean,
put quite
it's,
a bit with the 500,000 for the water, we've got the software, we've got the EMS equipment up to date and things. I mean,
The
I
hospital
do,
was
I don't wanna say I feel bad, cause I don't feel bad if they're needed services, and I think, those are things that are benefit everybody. But I kinda am starting to feel like it needs to go back out.
but we, we did the school at Kent,
That's just,
we did the museum.
Yeah.
We did the fire department at Troy, we did the Derby Community Center, the water.
I was just thinking of the county.
I don't know what else, we've got, there's a whole list of them that we've done. I mean, spread it pretty well. But I mean, I'm just throwing that out as a suggestion, if you wanna carve off a little piece of it and do that.
Part of that, we do half of it that way and half of the other, I mean, I don't know.
I don't know what, you know,
I'd rather the biggest bulk of it go back out. That's just my preference, but I'm just one.
one of the things.
So let's put it all back out. Let's put it all back
I'm
out.
okay with that. I'm okay with that because I think
So make the
county
motion.
government. Okay, but what is it? I mean, what's
Well-
the parameters or what does that look like? Is it nonprofits? Is it?
That's what you have to determine. And then what are your rules associated with that? I mean, again, the efficiencies at the solid waste, we're gonna have to bite that bullet one way or the other, so.
That's not for profit.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it won't, if you.
That
if
was
you
county
take it.
services, which
Right.
we turned down.
So, I mean,
agree.
that's something that.
I agree with that.
We're gonna have to find somewhere about that. Because the way the system is currently, I'm not positive it'll be a need.
I think that's.
I would rather split it myself. And,
50/50? I think that's fair.
I'm not 50/50. I'm thinking if you wanna do 30/75 and make it a $5,000 with a 5,000 match, that way that you
For
try.
what?
I would just say, I would like to see it go to something like capital improvements. And the reason, is because I think.
Capital improvement for who? For businesses?
No,
For-
like
Nonprofit.
nonprofit organization, something that, actually has some type of a longevity. If we put it out and allow the organization just to pay utilities, then I don't know that we've achieved what our original goal was. But if we put it out and they can, an organization, we have to kind of figure out what organizations we're gonna allow in. But if they need a heating and air conditioning system or something,
What about equipment?
equipment for what?
Whatever they're not for profit.
Something that's
Growth in operation.
Which would fall under, that would give most of the county access to these, you know? We're looking for percentage of people in Perry County to be able to use.
Well, I think if we go into that category, then we build a rubric. And that's one of the questions. You know, is it something that's utilized by the majority of the county?
Yeah.
And then we rate it accordingly. We'd have to go through and determine how we're gonna rate each
That
project.
would work, you know.
Go through that, but, you know, whatever the factors are.
If you're gonna say not for profit, you have to specify there's a bazillion types of 501Cs. And that's where we got in trouble last time. A 501c3 is not the same as a
You can't just say
501c5,
nonprofit.
501c7, 501c gets into. That's where we got in trouble last time.
Okay, so
We
what
have to
happens,
specify.
let me throw out a scenario. Let's say an organization wants
I don't know
to
the difference. So.
put a new LED sign out in front of their building. Would that be eligible? What's your thoughts?
Who?
A nonprofit organization wants to put a new LED sign in front of their organization.
That wouldn't be my idea of the capital improvement.
That's what I'm
It's not my
asking.
idea. Mine'd be like windows or a bathroom redo or a roof or something that's gonna assist, help sustain it long term.
Okay.
And not turn around and sell it tomorrow, you know.
Yeah, I would think an LED sign would do that because it would tell people where the organization is.
See, and these are the details, whether we're gonna sort through them either before or we're gonna sort through them after, because that's how.
Well, I think we need to do it before because it's unfair to have everybody apply and then we make the rules after the fact.
I think he's talking about before we determine the category or after.
Okay.
We could determine the category and then have separate votes to narrow that down into what's
Okay, so get a
acceptable.
category and then start working on what it looks like.
So,
Randy, you had an idea, I mean, you're president, but you can still make a motion if you
Well, what I was suggesting was, and we can take 30,000, but I'd match it, I'd make it $5,000 required, $5,000 dollar for dollar match, which would bring $60,000 back into the community. 30 from the county, 30 from private or wherever it came from. And then the entities would in effect have $10,000 to spend on whatever that project is. Now,
Why only 30 instead of the 400,000? I want it all if we're gonna do it, because you can't get very many groups with $30,000.
if
I
you wanna
like
do that, then
like to see all of
you
it.
just can the solid waste. You don't worry about the compaction, the balers or
Yeah,
whatever.
we can bring the solid waste off with the county service.
Now, we turned down the transportation services because we weren't comfortable with the categories and how narrow they were. I for one,
No, we're not supposed to be picking something to include someone.
That's-
I mean, I voted it down because I wanted to do a little like what Randy's proposing. I'm not opposed to transportation and county services. I'm just would like to see something that he's proposing. So that just, I didn't think it was a bad idea at all.
one of our challenges will be, and that will be efficiently collecting and disposing of waste in the county. The county's gonna get involved in that either way, whether it comes with funding with ARP or whether it comes from another source. Because we can't allow our community to turn into waste receptacles. So,
I agree with that. I just think there's ways to be more efficient in our budget and we can do it, but that's how I feel.
Comments?
I'd like to see it all go back out, the entire 105,000 and then whatever else comes back.
Just give it away, no matching requirements,
No,
nothing, and
no,
no categories?
That's not what I said. I said, go back out and not be government services. So whatever that looks like, nonprofits of, you wanna narrow it down, I honestly am very ignorant to the differences in all the nonprofits. So are there any that wouldn't qualify for government
As
funding?
long as.
They all have to have a contract, I'm
As long
sure.
as they, meet your criteria, like from, I wanna go through Baker Tilly to make sure that.
Yeah.
There's not any
These are
issue.
federal dollars.
That's what I mean, they would have
As
to have a
long as,
contract, each one
right,
of them,
as
that
long
you're
as
gonna
we
follow
got
the rules.
the rule from, or the ruling from Baker Tilly, they were eligible. I personally don't have a problem with what particular, in the, could schools apply? Technically, they're not technically a 501c3, but they can technically apply. I don't see them applying it because they've been, funded, but, they could, and then the committee could deny it, saying, well, you wanna give it to other people, I mean, there are all kinds of, but I mean, if you, technically, they would be an eligible not-for-profit.
Correct. And if you don't narrow the category, then you're going to have to, either you are going to give them false expectations and they put together some type of a request and you just arbitrarily turn them down, or you consider them and maybe fund them.
That's why I think we need to be specific as to what we're talking about with not-for-profits.
Because that is the religious organizations are all non-profit.
Well, yeah, we know we can't do that.
And I mean, but it's federal money. So,
We certainly don't wanna get in a situation where we have to pay something back. I just personally don't wanna see any of it on government services. That's how I feel. But I'm just one.
I'm putting part in workforce too, but it's something that I would maybe propose when the time comes and is any money that comes back in December that isn't spent, just make a decision that is, at that point, it's not gonna be scrambling, I think that
Goes back to the county.
goes back to the county. If there's money that wasn't spent, then that could be a potential source.
Like bids came in lower.
Bids came in
or-
lower, or it didn't meet the match or whatever. That would be a little bit of a compromise to get some funds back to the county. I mean, I think if you make it a 50-50 match, you're gonna limit the number, you're gonna limit the people who apply. I mean, there's no question that that's gonna limit it right there.
You would have to determine a time period again to raise the funds too. I mean, Rome's trying to raise 100,000, which is gonna take them longer than somebody raising 5,000, but at some point, we'd have to say this is our cutoff day because we have to make some decisions.
But then after that, it could all, what wasn't matched, go back to the county.
Right, but
For
we
the
don't,
county.
that's just a known number at that point.
It was county loss, I think is what it was considered.
I'm gonna make a motion that we split the 105,000. Half of it, I'm gonna put 50,000, this is the way I can split it, and we're gonna get specific on eligible organizations. And I'm gonna have to hammer that, think through that a little bit, but 50,000 and a $5,000 per organization, dollar for dollar match on that. And then the other 55,000 will be earmarked for county-wide services. And that's kind of an open, broad category. The other one, I would like to get it some way where we base it on the amount of people that it impacts, services, sustainability, are the determining criteria. I don't know. There's so many different nonprofits. What a motion.
Did you, so is that the 5,000, 50-50?
Well, I went 50,000, Mary, because if I went
No,
50, I'm not.
No, but I meant, I'm sorry, I was talking about dollar to dollar
5,000.
match. But are those, you had said earlier you wanted that to be infrastructure.
Well, I'm just government services. That's a broad, we'll see what comes in. I know there's plenty out there.
Government in the county or
Community
city
services?
County
county?
government.
But the 50,000 is not, that's for not-for-profits, isn't it?
On a dollar for dollar match, limited 5,000, that way we could help 10 organizations, is what I'm thinking, to get to a goal.
And what are you saying for county services? Anything? Any county service?
I think it needs to impact the public again. I don't think it needs to be a specific service used by a minimal amount of people.
Like, I don't want somebody come and say we want new chairs up here.
Right.
I mean,
That
that's
would, to
ridiculous.
me, I don't want to, it's something that impacts the entire county. So, that's my motion. If you don't want to second it, we'll move on.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second, a 50-55 split. We will have to hammer out probably the details a little greater on both categories. Any other comments, discussion, thoughts?
It has a county services in there that I want it, so that's part of that motion.
I know we never, we always encouraged the match before, now we're requiring it, but it's not a huge sum. So if we can help, that helps more organizations.
So if we're doing with the not-for-profits, you're saying 5,000 would be a limit for each one, so we're talking about
Up to
10,000.
5,000.
Well, if everyone applied for 5,000, we're talking about 10 organizations would be all.
But let's say they came up with a $2,000 match, they would only qualify for 2,000, right?
I mean, we could, I didn't think of it that way, but that would be okay. I mean, if
You're
somebody
wanting to
comes in
encourage
and-
them to put the
yeah,
entire
if somebody
fiber.
came in and said, I've got a $4,000 project and we'll
Yeah.
raise 2 and we'd ask for 2, that'll work too. I mean, something where we can help a greater group of people, at the same time that they help themselves by soliciting funds. And if they have support among their group, they'll raise them. Because a dollar for dollar match is a good grant match. So, any other thoughts, conversations, ideas? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carried 3-2.
And I just want to be clear that it's not that I think it's a bad idea, I just would like to see the whole amount go out, so.
And
That's the only reason.
For me, I'm just worried that now we're gonna have to pick 10 organizations, not-for-profit, which is not very many, and pick out, these are more important than these. So once we go not-for-profit, I would rather see it go all not-for-profit.
How many people reaches?
Now, let's
They'll be
Now we have to
part
narrow
of
this
that.
let's discuss about, so we don't get a whole bunch of people that spend a lot of time and it really doesn't fall what our thoughts are. So how do we narrow that non-for-profit first?
One of the ways that you can do it very easily is saying which 501Cs are eligible. I mean, you want to do 501C3s and 501C7s, or, I mean, there are some that I would think we would not want to do.
What's the
I
difference,
mean,
Sherry?
Teacher's fund, a teacher's retirement pension is a 501C. So that's why I think you've got to get very specific as to what they are.
Categories and.
And a 4 is a different one, and a 19 is another one. I mean, there are.
Well, first off, I would say any of them that Baker Tilly says we can't.
Well, of course, right.
So,
I mean, a C3
I mean, if they come
is
through,
what
we
we
don't
all.
know, they tell us you can't have this one and this one, we just cannot have those.
A C3 you can donate to and take a tax deduction. I think a C4 you can donate to and you don't get a tax deduction.
C4 is according to this, civil leagues or organizations not organized for profit, but operated exclusively for the promotion of social welfare or local associations of employees, the membership of which is limited to the employees of a designated person or persons in a particular municipality. So to me, that's limited to certain employees.
That's like a employees group,
Right.
say from the foundry, that would start up a nonprofit.
A C5 is labor, agriculture, or horticulture businesses.
How about any non-for-profit not getting taxed?
A C7, like what you're talking about, is clubs organized for pleasure, recreation, or other non-profitable purposes, substantially all of the activities of which are for such purposes and no part of the net earnings of which inures to the benefit of any private shareholder. So that's. I would propose that we do 501c3s and 501c7s.
3s and 7s.
I mean, you guys might have
What's a
others
nine-
you want to
what's a
add.
19?
Is any of those, I don't know anything about, that description of all of them.
Yeah, I'm
Any
not
of those
familiar
get
with
tax
I
dollars?
don't know.
Any of the 50, like,
Receive government revenue.
I mean, some of them can. I
like
mean, we have like the animal shelters.
innkeeper's
nonprofit.
tax, the
I don't know what they
regular
are.
tax. Or like PCDC,
No, Stan, like like Council on
Anything that's
Aging
not-
is.
CDC is not enough for, it's not enough for profit. It's not a 501c3.
Yeah, it's not a C3, but it's a non-profit. They have a filing requirement, but I'm not
But
sure.
it's not a, I'm sorry, it's not a C3 or C7.
It might be a 4. I'm not
See, I
sure.
don't know, I don't know the sequel.
I should say enough, yeah, because I
What
know
is it?
that.
A 19 is a postal
Organization of past or present members of the armed forces of the United States or an auxiliary unit or society. That's gonna include the VFW. And that's a such, 501c19.
Yeah, I have no idea. There might be other ones out there. I don't want to exclude people, just. I have a need. That's good. I know religious organizations we can, it's just federal government, you just cannot. You know, so we don't make those rules, so.
The only ones that fit, I mean, the 3, 7, and 19, the other ones are other.
Benevolent Life Insurance Association. See, we don't want to include stuff like that.
Right. I mean,
I'd make a motion that with the not-for-profits, we include 501c3s, 7s, and 19s only.
Just include those 3.
yeah, I'm okay with that. The only thing is, as long as we have the ability to make an exception, if we miss something for some reason, you know, blatantly that I'm unaware of, but we can consider it. But I think the 3, 7, and 19 will cover them. Because I don't know if any other one comes to mind that we would include.
And I'm almost positive that we'll have to have contracts for each one of these saying, what, you know, that they'll follow the rules, like,
Oh, yeah.
they'll bid it if they need something bid, they'll, you know, all those things so that we don't have to come
It's
back
used for the proposed project.
to include the ARP. So if they don't follow something, then we don't have to pay it back.
There's that list.
And this is any nonprofit, what, based in Perry County, or, I mean, actually in Perry County, or because some of them are based here, but they're not actually here, or some of them are based out of somewhere else, but they're here. You know, so what do you do about that?
We want local organization. We don't want to fund something else.
What does that mean, I guess is what I'm
Needs to
asking
be
you.
here in the county. I mean, it serves.
Yeah,
the
I get that.
people here.
But
I know what you're saying, yeah.
some of them might be a chapter of Indianapolis, and they have one here, but they're not technically their own, they're out of Indianapolis, so is that gonna cut them out? I don't know, we just better get this worked right.
Well, the question becomes with that one is, where's the money gonna be spent and who's gonna reap benefits from it? Is it the Indianapolis organization, or, again, they may be the owner of the facility, but it's used locally? So the question becomes, is that okay? I mean, that's your question.
Well, I want it to be used locally, but I just think we need to be specific and say that. So are you gonna go back to capital project?
I mean, I'm not, in my opinion, I really don't want it to be used for utility bills or somebody's insurance or something like that. It needs to be on something, and it needs to be sustainable.
Yeah.
So that it's here for well beyond just this one year, whatever they're doing with the money.
So capital projects and equipment,
I mean,
because I'm thinking, you know, like what Lisa said, we need like fencing and maybe repair equipment.
fencing's a capital project. If you had
Or if you needed
if you need
equipment,
equipment
baseball,
or a
that kind
refrigerator
of
goes
thing.
bad, or a freezer or something
I
like
have to
that.
agree, I don't want it to be just pay my light bill or,
No.
that's silly. Seems silly.
So capital projects and equipment.
I want them to put an investment back into whatever they're doing, not just try to get by.
I was thinking
Paying
these
their bills.
organizations sometimes need equipment,
Playground
Right.
equipment or whatever
like
it is.
goals for a soccer field.
Right.
Or,
Right, see, in that, we're buying something that hopefully would be reused season after season.
right, not gonna last for an eternity, but
So capital projects and equipment. And we have to just make sure all this is okay with it, actually. Sherry, you're like the contact with them, right? Can you reach out to them and
to
verify this is all okay before we advertise it?
verify with you.
Baker Tilly, that we're still okay to do these things and what requirements do we have to have when we put it out or?
I can, but I kind of think we're okay with,
What
but I
we need to-
can if you
What we
want
need to
to.
do before we do that is relook at what they've already told us. Because I did check into a couple on this last round. And he sent, I think I distributed those comments from Baker Tilly to you guys. It had to do with whether we legally could do what we were proposing. to
Yeah,
do.
with the religious stuff.
Well, it was religious, but it was also funding private, privately owned companies, and whether we could, and that was approved.
That's why the
Because I-
506 are privately
I
owned.
wanted to make sure that what our distributions were legitimate on that, so. Got that, so we need to look back at what our correspondence had
Okay,
already.
but if we don't have it, we need to
If we
make
don't
sure we
have
have
it,
it. And
we
if it requires a contract from every one of these, I wanna make sure we get it. So what's the deadline for this?
Well, do we have this figured out, what we're gonna do? Are we gonna go 3 7s and 19s?
I don't even know the difference, so, I mean, just
Well,
what
there's
Sherry.
a lot of, that's why I'm just going through there. There's insurance associations and all kinds of things like that. Like, they set up, that it's a nonprofit, and then it does health insurance, or it does, some of your insurance companies are not for profit.
Most of the ones, Kelly, that you think of as youth organizations and those, they're all gonna fall under 501c3 or 7. All of those that we're thinking of like that.
Are these the most, like, more standard ones? Okay, that's what I wanna know, because
And then 19.
I'm not afraid to say that I don't know anything about that, so I don't
And I
wanna.
think I'll pick up the Legion and the VFW and all of those.
I just don't wanna leave any major things out.
So,
The only ones that I can think of that you would leave out, and I think that's the intent to leave them out, is anything that falls under a government entity or a school, which is basically a government entity.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the intent. I think that's, there could be some groups that don't have their own 501c3, they just fall under, work under the BCA of a school, and so they wouldn't be eligible. That's what
You work in this world, so, yeah,
okay, so did you make a
I feel better
motion
that you say that.
about 3 7s and 19?
Yes, I did.
Okay, we have a motion to narrow the category with the matching grants of 50,000 to 501c3s, 7s, and 19s. Do we have a second on that?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any other comments, concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor of limited to 3 7s and 19s?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, so we agreed on that one at least. Now let's go to the governmental
I'll say
services.
aye.
And how do we want to, in my opinion, it needs to be something that serves the community, the county as a whole as much as possible. I don't know how we narrow that. It needs to be something.
Whatever service is most used, maybe.
I mean, we'll have to probably come up with, if
You
we
just
don't.
wanna say solid waste, if that's what, I mean, I don't know. I don't know of any, I mean, the problem. We can say, well, can the highway department come with a need? Well, yeah, everybody can bring me a need.
Sure.
I could pull one up, I could just start naming them, but I don't think that's, I mean, if there's one that's critical that we know is coming that I think we're gonna struggle for funding or whatever.
Can't you just say
The solid waste.
That's what I mean. I mean, I think we just say what it is.
5,000, because I feel like the solid
We already
waste,
made a motion to include government services.
Well, that's okay, but we're narrowing it down now, right? I mean, what does that mean?
I don't know.
I don't know.
They would have to come to us.
I prefer leave it open.
Yeah, I do, because we're targeting
I
one
didn't want
person.
it to begin with, so I don't know.
I know, I didn't either, so.
Don't ask me that. 'Cause I
Any
do-
county service
want
would have to come to us, and then we decide.
Just leave it
We
at
have
that
been
point because, it's an undetermined need, this time. So,
I guess we'll find out what the true needs of the county are when people come forward. Might have a $5 million worth of requests.
I think you will. I think
For
you will.
50,000, that's gonna be,
well, then we need to come up with some type of a way we're gonna measure this in order to, if we have to pick winners and losers, through a rubric. Once we get to that point.
and who applies for these? Each department individually, or, I mean, the council doesn't apply for, I mean, I don't know who applies for these
I think
things.
anyone could come in and apply for it.
When we did these before, for instance, when Judge Goffner wanted security, she came and applied for that, but the highway department wanted equipment, they came in and applied for that.
Are you limiting this?
Prosecutor's office came in and applied.
Yeah.
And like solid waste, whoever's in charge of the solid waste, who's running. They're the ones that know what they need.
Right.
I mean, we
Put
could
an application.
narrow it, if you can think of a way to narrow it, that.
Let's just leave it wide,
One person.
and then
Yes,
that
we'll
way we
find out
can
the true need.
see what's
I
there.
agree.
And it's gonna be up to this side.
Are we okay with just leaving it as it is?
Yeah.
Broad category. Okay.
We'll see what we get.
Okay, so let's discuss about how, first thing we need to determine is to make sure we'll research what the Baker Tilly has already sent us. And if we need clarification, we'll reach out to them to get that done. So let's set some type of a time. A time to make the discovery, and then a proposed time to allow people to prepare and present. I mean, how much time, right now, let's say we're at the 12th. I think we can get clarity from them this week.
Baker Tilly?
Yeah. And we may have to, I mean, we're gonna have strictly broad categories that we have the discussion with, and then if it's specifically something comes in front of us, this is what, whenever we did the last one, that's why I reached out to them to make sure, but after we had some of the health proposals, that we were okay to fund them. So we may have to do that revisiting once we see who comes in. So at this point, I wouldn't intend to do that, but if it happens, we'll revisit that. But we review the Baker Tilly stuff this week. Advertise, how long do you think it would take people to put together their proposals? If we advertise, I mean, we could advertise within a few days if we stay into these same categories.
I can get it in the newspaper, we can get it on the county website, we can put it on
While
Facebook, social
we're
media.
doing this, and then get it started. So the quicker we move into this way we don't get ourselves squeezed into December deadlines. How much time do you think we need to allocate for people to put their proposals together?
You give them very specific instructions. It shouldn't take more than 2 weeks, right? I mean, I think.
Yeah. almost determine the rubric, don't we, Mary, so that they know what they're actually writing for. You know,
I mean, what did you do like, what did we do the last time with the wellness? How was it worded?
Rubric is after the fact, right?
Yeah, we did it after, so.
But I think you did say, you had your criteria as part of the motion, you did say required a match,
Because it wasn't-
sustainability.
It wasn't like see what comes in and then.
Yeah, it wasn't, you did say it had to be based on sustainability
And community
and
use,
community
I
impact.
mean, to me, the,
Yeah, number of impact.
the more people that it does impact, the better, I would rank it. That's,
And then the match.
Well, did we want to meet to see what has come up, what the write-up is, criteria and everything, and then
or we can hammer it out tonight if we wanna have, what I said was, I mean, sustainability,
yeah,
and then the match, that's gonna be.
That's important.
Also, what was the other one? The impact as to county residents.
Number of people impact and type of impact, two separate, or?
Well,
Or just
I
number of
hate,
people?
I don't wanna get into, trying to decide that this is more valuable than this. I'd rather do the volume. 10
Okay.
people come
So
to it
number
or
of
1,000
people
people come to it,
Gotcha,
and.
okay.
Some places though, like the veteran places or clubs or whatever, they only have so many. I mean, they don't have, how is that gonna be fair to somebody that's open to anybody?
But at the same time, let's say we have an organization that serves 5,000 people, it's not a veterans organization, and the other veterans organization's closed and they only serve 100. The rubric would lean towards the bigger volume.
For that
of people.
category,
Yeah.
but not all of them.
No, but in that category it
Same
would
thing.
happen.
I mean, we've always said we want to
And
get
it's
that
more
large
points
number
in
of
that section.
people.
like you did before, get that
Okay.
rubric up, and it's emails. We look at it,
So what other areas do you think we want to stick on it?
like what we did last time.
Match, sustainability, impact. I wish I had my other one. I liked it. Do you remember sharing?
What made it, you would think I would remember, but I just remember it.
I got it laying in the rest of my documents, but it didn't bring.
One of them was availability.
This
Whatever
project
available.
is sustainable. There will be a large number of people served. That's the other one. This provides a service that is not attainable elsewhere in the county.
I like that too.
This is accessible to the community. The funding amount is reasonable given the amount of dollars we have. This is important to the whole community as a whole. Those are,
Exact same thing. For the not-for-profits. Match, we would need to add the match category.
right. But you could pull out one of the,
Actually, match is just yes or no, you don't have a match, you're not eligible, that's an eligibility
right,
thing,
right,
period.
that's not even a.
So it's not even a graded.
You don't have the match, you're not eligible.
I think that we also need to determine that with the match, with that $5,000, are they going to have the match already whenever they apply? Or are they able to get it at a later time? You see what I'm saying?
I think we need to give them some time, this is my feeling.
we need to set how much time, since we're gonna
Similar
run
to what
out.
we did up at Rome. You know, we said
December first,
we're gonna, if we want, yeah.
December first,
That
So,
would be fair.
I think so.
So then on December first, we would have all the decisions made, and then assuming they got their match, the contracts would be ready or whatever that Baker Tilly says we need, and we would just
I
have them sign it, and then
anticipated doing it earlier than that. If you had an
If they get it
organization,
sooner,
if you
then
have
we can do it sooner.
organization A that
Okay.
comes in,
But
gets
they
their
have it
match,
As soon as they get it.
as soon as they
the
get it,
money.
they exercise, they get their money, they get on the project. There's no use for us to
I
delay.
agree.
The only ones that will be out there as of December first would be those that
Still, we're looking for the match.
just couldn't get their match. So, but we need to come back to dates.
Are there-
December first would be the cutoff. If you haven't got your match by then, you lose your funding.
Do we wanna work backwards and say, when do we need to have our decision made by?
Yeah, well, I'm just saying right here, by looking at it here, if we could advertise this thing even while we're, having a discussion with Baker Tilly, because I think they're gonna tell us, go ahead and do it. Then we're gonna go back in here, and whenever we actually get the people applying, we may have to find ourselves asking them once again, before we award it, that they are an eligible category. So I think we could advertise it soon. How much time we wanna give them from the day we advertise it to the day we have them come in with their proposals.
Maybe those 5-minute presentations.
Right.
10-minute.
Right, and that way they can go through them, they can tell us what they're planning on doing with it, share any documentation they've got. We can ask them questions.
So I'm gonna ask these two groups, what do you think's a reasonable amount of time?
I said, mid-September, does that give you guys plenty of time? I mean, I feel like,
I think we do it sooner than that.
Is
I
2
mean,
weeks,
right now-
is 2 weeks too short?
I could have it ready by the end of the week if I need, the things that
I'm
you're
just
asking
thinking
for.
like 2 weeks,
For clubs
and
or?
then to start coming in with those, and then we're gonna have to collect the information. Then we'll have to take it home and think about it, and then we'll have to have a meeting.
Yeah, because I'm gonna review it all.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Once,
After
once
they
we hear from
provide-
them, I need to let it
Well,
soak
you're gonna have to
in.
score it on the rubric too.
Right. So if we go with 2 weeks, 2 weeks from today is gonna put us at the 26th. So something in that week, if we wanna do it. What do you want to be?
26th of
August,
August.
the week of the 26th.
But if we do the 26th, that doesn't include advertising. So we'll do the end of that week.
Okay.
It's like the newspaper meeting.
Would you, how about Thursday, the
3 days,
29th would be
Okay,
our meeting?
Thursday. Sounds good.
The county council's gonna have.
Oh, you right.
yeah.
You have a
But
meeting.
that could just be the cutoff for people to apply.
I know, but I think, somebody said it's,
Right.
I thought I had heard that, but I don't know.
The 29th is gonna happen.
That doesn't, we don't have to meet the day of the deadline. I mean, because you're gonna want to have to.
So then the next day, we go into Labor Day, right? Which is Monday, so we can do September the 3rd.
The 3rd.
And that's for what?
Tuesday.
For our meeting, you mean?
Yeah, for us to go through, we'll start scheduling
Those presentations.
presentations.
Okay.
Put us down.
Huh?
Can you go ahead and put can we go ahead and tell you that we want to present, so our names are on the list, or do we have to?
We'll get you.
Okay.
I have to get a spreadsheet made up. And then, again, we'll do, what we did the last time was 15-minute increments. And then what
That
we
should be
try
plenty
to
of time.
not do is stay here all night, so if we have to take a second day. If we start, I think, I can't remember when we started. I got that here too.
6 o'clock.
Was it 6?
Started at 6, but I think 10 minutes is God's plenty.
Maybe it was smaller projects.
We can start earlier. Than 6.
We could start at 5:30 or
That's
something.
hungry time.
Earlier
Let's start 4. 5. Some people have to drive far,
But you wanna start at 5:30
5.
and break it in 10-minute increments?
That's fine.
Try to get more in that way, maybe 2.5 hours. But I think after that time, we're drained.
At what time then?
5:30. Start at 5:30 and we'll break them by 10
September
minutes.
3rd, 5:30.
10 minutes.
And you're gonna take once this is advertised, you're gonna start taking the requests from people and giving them a time slot.
Yep.
So they're supposed to email you at
Yep.
commissioner1@perrycounty.mine.gov.
I'll put it on a spreadsheet for us.
And Sherry, are you gonna get this together like you did last time, get it to the newspaper and we'll get it on social media? The requirements are, the press release, I guess, about here's our next round. Oh,
Do you want me to do that with this?
I do.
Yeah, I'm just changing this one.
Who wants to do that with the newspaper?
Where's the last one? Who's got it? It's easy to copy it.
Sherry did the first one, I did the second one.
Okay. How about I do it and you submit it?
That's fine, and then I'll get it on social
Well,
media, I'll get it to Chris
newspaper.
and you guys, and
Okay,
put it on the
sounds good.
and website. Can anybody think of anything else? Because a lot of times we get accused of not putting things out there, but other than social media, the website, the newspaper, I can't think of anything else. And I'm willing to do it, I just don't know what it is.
Okay, now I'm gonna propose a
Do you
week
have any
later.
ideas? Just let me know.
A week later, we come back on the 10th to make the decisions. Does that work for everybody?
Yes.
So that we'll get them submitted, and then we'll be back on the 10th.
At what time?
Everybody's okay with 5:30? We can do 5:30.
Yeah.
Could
As
we,
long as this room's available or whatever, we'll have to check, yeah.
could we
We'll
go
check the
ahead and
third.
set up a second date for presentations in case we need it, so that we're not scrambling and to block that date ahead of time?
Yeah, but for me, I'm tied up on that Thursday, on the 5th. I know that no one likes to do things on Friday, it would have to be the 4th for me. I can do that.
Fourth.
Tentative, is everybody okay with the 4th?
Tentative
for a
4th if
second?
we need it, yeah.
If we need a second day, yeah.
Same time, 5:30, we can ask and verify with the auditor's office that this room's available. Have them set up live stream. Is that okay, Mary? Mm-hmm. Is that all right for you?
All right.
Okay. So Sherry, you're gonna get something together for a press release. I'll submit it to the news, get it on social media and get it to the auditor to make sure it's.
And we'll get
Yeah.
these days
No
set
problem.
aside.
Do that. This time we're out.
Put out there that we, send the request to,
Okay. Got it.
I just wanna thank you guys for giving us all nonprofits
Yes.
a chance to get to.
Much
We
appreciated.
really appreciate it.
So, with that said, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll move.
We have a second?
Thanks a lot for a second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Just watch here. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.